I like sat down and I was like, okay, here are all the things that I want to happen, and they're going to happen by this date, and this is how it's going to happen. And I wrote that in my journal. And, one of the books I listened to said, write what you want every day and it will happen. And so when that date came and it didn't happen, boy, I was angry. The more that I opened myself up and listened and let go of some of that anger, it's like, I've got to let go of the how and the when. I need to listen. I need to be more open. And I need to be happy for all the gifts that come in every day. And when I took that step back, now more of, the messages are becoming clear. And I sleep better at night having that clarity. I wake up in the morning without a lot of struggle. Now, am I where I want to be? No, I'm still in a very, conflicting place right now. But I feel like I'm on that path more than I ever have been, and I'm closer than I ever have been.
Welcome back to the Oracle on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Leah Dunlap, and today I'm here with Dani Cee, the founder of the Happy Life Agenda. And as I am apt to do, we're bringing on more women founders and entrepreneurs to talk about their journey. And I love that Dani is just stepping out into this world, because that's a place of power too. And I want to talk more about that with you. So why don't you tell everybody what brought you to the Happy Life Agenda, Dani, and what you're working on, what you're building right now.
Yeah, hey, Leah, thanks so much for having me on. So I am at the very beginning of my journey. As you said, I am working in corporate right now, and it's not really, turning out to be the place that I need to be. So I'm like, what should I do next? And instead of going to, from job to job, which I kind of have done for most of my career, I want to do something that fills the tank and uses my gifts. And so it started out just like as a website and a blog and just writing about things that I'm actually passionate about. But the more that I meditated and wrote in my journal, I realized that I want to help women, find their purpose and live the life that they were meant to live and not get stuck. Kind of like, I feel like, I'm in my 40s now, and if only I'd known about this sooner. And I have a daughter who I want her to grow up in a world where she can get that opportunity from a very young age and be able to live who she is for her entire life instead of building that shell around herself, which a lot of us tend to do.
Oh, yes, the shell. When, I think that's an interesting piece too. Like you're talking about the legacy. Like I think women are really kind of stepping into the fullness of understanding the legacy we now get to leave, right? We get to leave for those who are behind us, whether that's our own children or other women. So how do you feel like, what was that moment when you were there, bring us in, where were you when it kind of became really clear that it was like, this was the new path for you?
Yeah. So I realized, every morning I was waking up and I was getting my daughter up for school. And, I went through a lot of fertility challenges. And so it took me 10 years to have this beautiful little girl. And every morning I would wake up and I'd rush her out the door. And I would always be like, come on, we don't have enough time. And so I woke up one morning. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I am rushing through it. She's now 6 years old. She turned 7 in March. And I'm like, I am rushing and missing this all to, work for somebody else, make somebody else money. And I'm not doing any of the things that were quote unquote on my bucket list, And when my husband and I finally got pregnant, we were like, we're going to do this, this, and this, and take her here and there. And we haven't done any of that stuff. And so I said, okay, what can I do to change my life? And interestingly enough, at work, we had a leadership consultant come in and talk to us. And his talk that day was about, who are you and what are you doing here? Like, who are you really? And what is your purpose on this earth? And I just sat in that room, and it was a group talk, but I just it was like the whole room was black and he was just talking to me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he talked about living life on repeat. And literally I went back through my entire life and I was like, I have done the exact same thing since about my 20s. And that is, find the great job, rise pretty high, and then get tired of it, and then just go to the next job and do the exact same thing. And I could pretty much find that pattern. There would be like a place where I go off and do something crazy. Like I worked on a cruise ship for 2 years, and just I would tell my parents hey, I'm moving to Hawaii, but then I would come back and just do the same thing again. So it's like, oh my God, I have to stop this. And so that was where I started just journaling and seeing what came out.
And so did you start with the blog? Was that your first kind of endeavor to like sneak out there and just like share those thoughts with the world? Or, yeah. Okay.
I've been a writer. If I were to say like, what is the gift that I feel like God gave me? It's writing. It's the thing that like, if I could just sit in a room or, go out to a cabin in the woods and nobody ever bothered me and I could just write and write and write. And it's just so fun. But I've always used that gift for other people. That's like, I ghost wrote for doctors and always blogging for companies and stuff, and never the stuff that I wanted to write about. And so it was just so exciting. I mean, I can write 1,000 words in less than an hour because I'm so excited about what I'm writing about.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And that's so great, because I think one of the things I like to help my clients understand is like your purpose leaves clues, right? It's talking to you all the time. There are always signs, as you said. So I love the idea and that image of like sitting there and realizing like he's talking to me, right? And so as you're leaning into what you're going to create next, what are some of the challenges you're kind of looking at? What people are going to be where you are as they're listening to us now and thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, I was in that same conference, maybe a different guy, but I know that feeling of like a wake up call. So what steps are you taking to make that happen?
So I guess, I feel like I started this back in September, and I'm a type A recovering perfectionist. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, here are all the things that I want to happen, and they're going to happen by this date. And this is how it's going to happen. And I wrote that in my journal. And, one of the books I listened to said, write what you want every day and it will happen. And so when that date came and it didn't happen, boy, I was angry. And so I'm just like, why? Why hasn't it happened? And so the more that I opened myself up and listened and let go of some of that anger, it's like, I've got to let go of the how and the when. I need to listen. I need to be more open. I need to be happy for all the gifts that come in every day. And when I took that step back, now more of, the messages are becoming clear. And I mean, I sleep better at night having that clarity. I wake up in the morning without a lot of struggle. Now, am I where I want to be? No, I'm still in a very, conflicting place right now. But I feel like I'm on that path more than I ever have been. And I'm closer than I ever have been.
Right. So. More behind you than in front of you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's a good thing to remind people, because one of the things that, came through right as you were talking was the word patience.
Yes.
Right. To be able to be patient with the process. Oftentimes there's a germination period for things. Right. So, you had the numbers, I can see that type A person going, here's how we're doing it. Okay. And kind of wrestling that back from the universe. Like, oh, I got this. I have a plan. So as you're starting to kind of soften, is what I'm hearing. What do you find is most as a practice for you? What is the most important way that you're moving into that softness and you're moving into that freedom of creating what's next? What kind of tools and or practices are you using to do that?
That's a great question. So meditation is the number one thing. And what's hilarious about that is that I have always been one of those people who's like, oh my gosh, what a waste of time to sit around with nothing on your mind. I can't do that. And now when I finally said, okay, this is something that I have to do, started with 5 minutes, then 10. And I did it with some guided meditations because there was no way I was going to be able to do that by myself. But now I can just put on some music with no words and sit for up to 45 minutes and go to a place where I didn't even know existed and really come out with some really great clarity on things. A funny story is my daughter, I was up in my office and I have earbuds in, and so I couldn't hear anything. And I'd been in about 34 minutes in, and all of a sudden she whacks me on the shoulder because she was looking for me because it's pretty early in the morning. And I go, because that's how deep in I was to the meditation. And so it was just so interesting to be that far in a place and be so scared because she's just standing right there in front of me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was somewhere else.
I wasn't even here. Right.
But then then right after that, I always journal because that's when I get to put that stuff down on paper that I saw in my mind. And when I'm consistent on that stuff, that's when I sleep better. I feel good going through my day. And I know that I'm moving towards the purpose that I'm
yeah. And I think that's a key factor too, is if you're growing something, if you're growing a company or you're growing in even industry, you're building something new and stepping into it, that consistent action is really key. But also if you are getting inspiration to then move on that inspiration, do you find that as you're getting things are coming to pass, you're getting opportunities, synchronicity, things like that are starting to happen, that it is even easier to say yes to that next little leap of faith, perhaps that they're getting nudged to do?
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things is just those small things that are happening. I haven't had one of the really giant ones happen yet, but all the small ones. And I also looking at my day and saying like, why am I still in this place? And a lot of times it's the people that are around me that I really care about, that they still need me in the position that I'm in to support them. And so when I look at it from that lens and that's who I'm there for, like my team at my current job is the most amazing group of people. And I feel so blessed to be, working alongside them. And so I'm trying to make sure that even for some of the frustrations I'm experiencing, that I impart to them whatever I can while we're still working together. Who knows what the future holds, of course.
Right. Well,
you might.
I mean, wow. Yeah. And well, that's interesting because I think that that's part of it too, is like I might, and I probably do. And I think that there's a part of you, and this is what I would always say to my clients as well. It's like, there's a part of you that knows the answer to that question, which is, so if it's to be, right? Or when it's to be, what will you need? What do you need to have in place so that you can make that next big leap, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think that I haven't let go of some fears.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's one thing that I'm doing, and probably building some more confidence because like I'm here on this retreat this weekend and with some amazing people. And that's what I see coming through when, everyone's asking me, what are you doing? And I'm like, and I'm scared to even speak into it because it's not fully baked. It kind of is, but I'm just not totally there yet. And so I think that's probably part of the quote unquote problem, the thing I'm working through.
Right. I think it's the next boulder to move, right?
Yes.
Right. And I think even in moving those boulders, we get stronger.
True.
So if that helps at all. So as you continue to build this amazing vision for yourself, I want to support you, which is what I do here on the call and on these sessions. So I'm curious, if you were to ask the question to help get one of those boulders moved, what do you think that question would be?
Oh, I'm so excited for this part of the podcast because I had some time to think about it. And it's like, I want to ask, like, what is holding me back? Because I, have been on this journey, I think since really September is when that line in the sand was. But from March, I knew that I needed to make a big change. And so like, is there something that I'm doing that's holding me back? Like, I suspect that I'm not letting go of fear, but what is the word?
Right. But I think, and yes, the answer is yes, of course. But there's the instant thing that came through as you were just speaking is, your need to make sure that everyone else is okay is coming from the need to care for your daughter. And the fact that you missed out on those early years with her, your struggle is, do you want to leave them too? Because you have that mothering role where you are. And so you have to make the decision that, they're grown. And you're safe to let them go. And that doesn't mean anything about whether or not you're a good mother. And that your daughter is she's, by the way, side note, she's just a little angelic being. And I love that she got to break in and see you and that hypnosis or that meditation session, because it's clear, like, your mothering isn't contained with your child. It's who you are. And so letting go of being a mother at the corporate level is going to really give you the freedom to really show up and shine in this next place.
Wow, that's so interesting because, I never thought of myself as the mothering type because it took, so long to have my daughter. And so that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thanks.
But you had all your kids at work.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And then that energy is there, though. That, to your question of like, what is the next thing? It's letting go of being the mom at work to take care of everybody, make sure everybody's okay.
Oh, wow.
And get to go be home and be a mom at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly the dream.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Well, thank you for being so kind to show up and share your journey. I think you're going to speak to a lot of people out there that are like on that cusp, which I love working with people that are transitioning because there's so much magic in that and so much possibility. And yes, there's also a lot of fear, and some of those things kind of sneak up on us and hold us back. So I'm glad, and I hope that helps you continue to build what you're creating, because you deserve to have your own happy life. So thank you so much for being here, Carrie. I just appreciate you, Dani, for being here. And I hope that what's next for you allows you to really fully express who you are.
Well, Leah, thank you so much for having me. This has been like such an enlightening conversation. I'm so honored that you had me on. And so I look forward to chatting with you more and watching what you do. And and then of course I hope the Happy Life Agenda helps other women too. So
great. So let them know now. How can they find out more about that going forward?
Absolutely. So my podcast will be coming soon to YouTube and all of the places where you can get a podcast, as well as you can go to happylifeagenda.com. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of the socials. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Leah Dunlap, the Oracle on Purpose. This is the Oracle on Purpose podcast. Do it. Follow Dani Cee. She's going to be creating some really amazing things in the world. And remember, if you're a woman founder and entrepreneur, you deserve to have a limitless life too, and live that limitless life of purpose and prosperity. So stay with us. Stay tuned. Keep coming back. Like us. Of course, subscribe below, and we'll see you next time on Oracle on Purpose podcast.